Hello and welcome to today's webinar on how to future-proof your data protection strategy. Today's webinar is sponsored by Quest and produced by Actual Tech Media. My name is David Davis of Actual Tech Media, and I'm excited to be your moderator on today's special event. Today's special presenters are Mr. John Connor, who is a product manager at Quest, and Mr. Roger Bothwell, who is a software architect at Quest as well. John and Roger, thanks so much for joining us today.
Very welcome, David. Thanks for having us.
Thank you, David.
All right, now before we get started, there's a few things that I want to let you all out there in the audience know about how today's webinar works. So first off, we want this to be a very educational event. So we encourage you to ask any and all questions about data protection using the GoToWebinar control panel. Right there, you'll see the questions box. Just enter your question. John, Roger, and I will be doing our best to answer every single question that comes in. I know there'll be a lot of them, so I encourage you to get your questions in early, because we will have a dedicated Q&A session at the end of the event where we will be answering the best questions that come in today live on the event. Second, we have a handout there in your GoToWebinar control panel that you can download. This is a Quest product brief on how to protect Office 365 Exchange using the Quest NetVault data protection solution. So I encourage you to check that out. Just click on the handout right there, the PDF. It will download, and you can check that out, read it after the event, share it with your friends and family. And then third, at the end of the webinar, we'll be giving away a $300 Amazon gift card to one of the lucky attendees on today's live event. If you're watching the webinar on demand, I'm sorry, the drawing has already occurred. If you are the winner of today's gift card, you can optionally donate the value of that gift card to one of the selected charities at Actual Tech Media, and thanks to generous prize winners throughout our event series, especially just this year, we've given away thousands of dollars to charity. So if you choose to give that prize value away to charity, thank you in advance for doing so. The prize terms and conditions for today's drawing can be found at actualtechmedia.com. Scroll to the bottom there, and you'll find the prize terms and conditions link if you want to get the full legalese terms for the drawing. And then finally, thank you so much for joining us today. I want to make sure I mention that. I really hope that you enjoy the webinar. I've seen the content for today, and we've got some really cool content lined up on how to future-proof your data protection strategy. Now, before I hand it over to Roger, I'd like to just take a minute here to provide my own take. Being a former IT manager myself and system administrator for many years on the state of data protection in the IT organization today. This is based on polling that we do with our Actual Tech Media audience, and then also just, I talk to a lot of practitioners still out in the field in user groups and big online events and event conferences. So, what I'm hearing is that IT organizations are really struggling today. They're struggling with massive data growth. The statistic I saw today was that 2.5 quintillion bytes of data are created every single day. And in the last 2 years alone, 90% of the data in the world has been generated. And I mean, that's a staggering statistic, but I think we're seeing those, similar types of staggering, massive amounts of data being created in our own IT organizations, even just on our home networks and our own personal devices. And then the expectation, I think, of 100% availability from our end users at our company is stronger today than ever before. They just expect internal IT applications to have the same availability as their Gmail, as their Facebook, and we in IT know that that's tough to accomplish, given the budgets that we're given in IT organizations. And then there's really zero tolerance for backup windows. End users don't know what a backup window is, they don't care, and there's frustration if they ever encounter some sort of access problems with their data because a backup window is going on, or perhaps their application's running slow due to a backup window. And then at the same time in IT, we're struggling with aging data protection solutions, and so it's even tougher than ever to meet these availability and data protection expectations with aging data protection and DR solutions. And then security is a constant concern. We all know that we need data protection really as the last layer of defense because there's no foolproof security solution. And then finally, we're really, unnecessarily, in my opinion, overwhelmed with complexity in IT. And that's probably the biggest burden that we face in IT today is tremendous complexity. And we need simpler IT solutions, especially in the area of data protection, because data protection just has to work. When we need to recover something, it just needs to work the first time with zero complexity. And I know with most of you working in an IT organization of some kind, I'm sure that these challenges, resonate and are familiar with you. So with those challenges in mind, when it comes time to refresh your existing data protection solution, or you need a new data protection solution, perhaps for a greenfield deployment, here are my top 6 features to look for. First off, make sure that the solution can scale to the needs of your business. With that massively growing data, we need a massively scalable data protection solution. You want to make sure that the solution is able to help you leverage cloud economics and scalability if you need to. You want to ensure that the solution is easy to use and manage, since none of us need more complexity in our lives. Security just needs to be built into it, not something you have to bolt on later. And then finally, we want to make sure that whatever data protection solution we choose, that it's future proof. It's prepared for the future, no matter what our IT organization and our business, demands might be, because sometimes those are hard to predict. In fact, really, that's what this webinar is all about, right? Future proofing our data protection solution and our data protection strategy. So with those challenges and those features in mind, I'm really excited to hear from both John and Roger at Quest to learn how the Quest data protection solution can help us to ensure that our data protection in IT is ready for the future. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Mr. John Connor. Let me go ahead and hand over control to you, John. I see the presentation. Yep. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. So, thank you very much, David, and thank you all for joining. So I'm going to take you through some things as well, just building on what David said, and then talk a bit about our solution at Quest and how we can help you. So building on what David said, what's happening in your world. From the customers we talk to here at Quest and Quest Data Protection, as you heard David say, exponential data growth, we hear the similar things. Data growth is a fact of life. I've been in this business for quite a while, and data growth is, I think, kept me in business. So no end in sight there. But we're also seeing customers and having challenges around their resources, either wasted or going or not utilized particularly well, particularly in the area of their storage and their backup data protection. Throwing storage at the problem may work for a while, but it's not a good long-term solution. And as David said, really in today's environment, with businesses being available 24/7, any downtime or data loss goes straight to the bottom line and not in a good way. David quoted some statistics. We've got some as well. This is from an Aberdeen group, and their research shows that 180 zettabytes of data will be created each year. I struggle getting my head around what a zettabyte is, and really that's 1 billion terabytes or 1 trillion gigabytes. So that's kind of hard to comprehend, but again, I think we all recognize the amount of data that just keeps growing each year. The other interesting fact that they shared is about 8 million is the average cost of a data breach in the U.S. today, and I actually think that number may be on the low side depending on the company and such. The recent Marriott data breach I read is going to cost them upwards of 200 million. And then of course, you've heard this a couple of times already, data loss is really unacceptable in today's environment. So what do you do about these challenges of user expectations around no data loss, and at the same time managing data growth, and all at the same time trying to effectively use your resources that you have efficiently and make sure they're not used in the wrong way? You may think you can only focus on one of these at a time, but that's not true. Unfortunately, what we're going to take you through today is how you can really proactively manage all of these in your organization and be successful. So what if you could simplify your backup and recovery across your infrastructure, either on-premise or in the cloud, and at the same time evolve and change to new requirements while still growing efficiently? And concurrent with that, do some automation and free up your staff for more innovative projects and actually improve your data protection coverage position through automation. Well, if you could do all those things, you'd be like our friend here, who's a very young IT manager. May have had too much sugar when this picture was taken, but he'd be a superhero, and you'd be a superhero. And we're going to show you today how to do that with our product, and that product is NetVault Backup. So what I'm going to do is take you through a brief overview, kind of a highlight of the product, and then I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Roger Boffo, and he's going to show you the product in action. And if you've heard about NetVault in the past or not, we've done quite a bit of work on NetVault. It's really a new product from the ground up virtually in this past year with our latest release, NetVault version 12 that we introduced this year. And I'm going to talk to you about the capabilities of the product, and they really fall into 5 key areas. The first is, as you see on the slide there, broad application protection. So as we discussed, protecting your data protection environment really starts with protecting your applications and ensuring little to no data loss. And NetVault delivers excellent application protection for applications such as Oracle, SQL Server, Exchange, Office 365, SharePoint, and many others. And our data protection in those areas is application aware. So we have a plug-in architecture that allows you to add those components and really work directly and closely within that application to quiesce the app and back up the data with minimal to no data loss. We also have excellent protection for virtual environments, both Hyper-V and VMware, that I'll talk about. The second key area where we deliver value is around enterprise-wide control. You have the ability to manage your jobs and your backup policies really from anywhere, and you'll see that in the demo with Roger. And most recently, we've introduced single sign-on capability, so you can take advantage of your Active Directory environment and LDAP to sign on with your Active Directory controls and ensure your users are only accessing what they're authorized to use. Additionally, with a companion or complementary product we have in Quest called Foglight, for larger environments, you can integrate that with NetVault, and that will really allow you to manage your environments beyond what NetVault can traditionally see from a backup and recovery perspective, to see perhaps where network bottlenecks are or what virtual machines may not be protected or not utilized. So that is a very good complementary solution that we integrate directly with as well. Again, particularly if you have a larger install that crosses a number of different locations or domains. The third area where we deliver excellent value is around our storage target, and where you can target and back up your data to. We support, as the slide says, there are many different types of storage devices. To kind of put that in perspective, we have a compatibility guide, a platform compatibility guide that runs about 150 pages, and a device compatibility guide that runs about the same, and we update that monthly. So you can be assured that you have excellent investment protection for your current install base and storage and device infrastructure, as well as be assured that as you add new capabilities, we will support those as well. We strive to a 90-day SLA when a new platform or device is out there to add that to our compatibility matrix. Additionally, from a storage target perspective, we, focusing on these challenges around data growth, we now support application-aware snapshots. So those are a very good way to dramatically shrink your backup window and improve your RPO, recovery point or recovery time objectives. And we've introduced that with version 12 as well. Similarly, with the theme around data growth and managing that, we have excellent integration and with data deduplication capabilities. We have Another complementary product from Quest called Quest QoreStor. You may have seen that introduced. This is a brand new offering for us in the area of secondary, software-defined secondary storage for dedupe and compression capability. Allows you to deploy it on generic hardware of your choice. And we integrate extremely well with that. You can actually manage QoreStor directly from NetVault and get deduplication benefits up 20 to 1 or more. And of course, we integrate with other industry leaders such as EMC Data Domain and as well, and update our compatibility with them on a monthly basis as well. And then last but not least, if you have a smaller storage environment or environment, we have our own product called NetVault Smart Disk, which is an excellent dedupe solution for environments less than a full bare metal recovery capability. So if you have a catastrophic system failure, we've got an excellent set of tools to allow you to rebuild the product, from pretty much from the iron up. So again, this is a kind of a quick one-slide overview of the value that we deliver in NetVault today. What I want to focus on now is a lot of the new value that we've introduced in NetVault version 12. And again, version 12 was introduced in May of this year, and we've had a number of enhancements since then. And we're currently on version 12.1 that were released in September. And we'll be delivering another drop with some additional updates right after the first of the year. So we've focused on version 12 as really to drive and scale to larger installs that you all have and address the needs that you have, not only today, but going forward. And I like to do things in fives. So we focused to kind of take this in a little deeper area on the challenges around 5 key areas or challenges that we focus on with NetVault version 12. And the first one is around improved manageability. Again, making the product and making your life, customers, easier to use and manage the product. And one of the things we've introduced most recently in version 12.1 in September is we've enabled the product and architected it so that it can be offered as backup as a service. So if there are any managed service providers listening today or on the recording, NetVault now has the capability to be deployed in an MSP, managed service provider environment, very easily and in a couple of different configurations that I'll talk about in a minute. I talked briefly on the other slide from a manageability point of view as well around integrating with our companion product called Quest Foglight, again for larger environments where you need to see what's going on maybe beyond the command and control of NetVault. Another key area or challenge that we focus on in version 12 is around ease of use and productivity. Again, around the challenges of automating and improving automation as much as possible for our end users. And we've got a number of enhancements there, and you'll see this in the demo shortly from Roger, a lot of the great capabilities we have. But just to highlight a few, we introduced a new search capability, very much like a Google search capability in the product. So when you're looking for a file or an object, you want to be able to find it fast and recover it fast. And we've greatly improved that capability. We've also introduced some new common filtering across the product, so allows you to drill down and really focus on what you need to identify either from a backup perspective or recovery perspective. And then additionally, we've got a new heads-up widget-based dashboard display that you can customize and very quickly see what's going on in your environment and drill down and take corrective action. And then one of our newest additions to the portfolio is support for Office 365 via a new application plugin. Today we support Exchange Online, and this is feedback from the customers we have and probably from all of you, is this is a growing area where Microsoft doesn't guarantee that they'll protect your data and you need some options, and we've got a great solution for that as well that I'll talk about. Of course, security and access control, we talked about misuse of resources and things like that. We continue to focus on that. We've introduced Active Directory and LDAP. This allows us to introduce the backup as a service that I mentioned. It also introduces the ability to sign on based on your Active Directory controls and only be authorized to access the capabilities that you're authorized to. Some additional benefits of that also is it improves some productivity because we can now do client push installs based on the Active Directory environment as well, to allow you to deploy our NetVault capability out to hundreds of endpoints. Another key area we're focused around is in virtual environments, and we've greatly enhanced our VMware capability to scale to protect thousands of VMs in a centralized manager, and I'll talk about that in a second. And then last but not least, our good friend data growth. Again, this is, you've seen some of the statistics and what we've got challenges around there. And we now support, as I mentioned on the previous slide, application aware snapshots. We support Dell Compellent today and a number of applications, and are continuing. This is an area on the version 12 platform that we're continuing to build and enhance. So excellent capabilities there to dramatically reduce your backup window from a more traditional backup approach. And then last but not least, as I mentioned, we integrate for dedupe and compression very well with our Quest QoreStor software-defined solution. And we leverage that as one of our paths to the cloud, so you can back up directly to our QoreStor solution and then enable that to things like Azure or Amazon Web Services. So again, this is a brief overview of some of the new things in version 12, and I'm going to take you through a quick tour of these, each on an individual basis. So first, let's talk about our virtual environment support. And as I mentioned, we have a excellent VMware capability. We support vSphere 6.7. I think the update 1 is coming out very shortly. And we support all the key aspects required for VMware, such as policy management for vSAN and vVol. From a backup perspective, you can do a full image or file level backups. And then from a restore perspective, and from a backup perspective, we help you manage your data by using change block tracking and active block mapping techniques to reduce the amount of data that you back up. As well as on a restore perspective, you can customize your restore either to restore the image or the full file. So a very robust set of VMware capabilities. But most recently, and these are the points on the right hand of the slide, we've introduced a distributed proxy architecture to allow you to really scale and protect thousands of VMs through a managed proxy environment to manage those different VMs in an efficient way and from a central and unified view. So you can be confident that with our VMware protection, you can protect upwards of 2,000 VMs. I think we've tested in the lab and manage that centrally. So again, the key benefit here is excellent scalability and central management of your VMware environment. Similarly, for Hyper-V, we support, have a plugin. Our terminology is a plugin. It's a component-based architecture. You plug in, you buy the server and the client, and you plug in the different components as you need. This is also optimized for backup using active block mapping, as well as resilient change tracking on Windows from Windows 2016 to, again, reduce the amount of data that you back up and be efficient there. And the same on restore. You can restore complete image or individual files, depending on what your needs are. And we've added some new capabilities in our most recent release in version 12 around differential backup, which just backs up all the data since the last full backup. Gives you a shorter backup window and faster restores, as well as some policy management enhancements. And what we've done there is add support for VM name inclusion or exclusion from your backup to simplify and select what you need to back up. And then finally, mount point support as well. So again, from a VMware and a Hyper-V perspective, we have an excellent set of tools that you can take advantage of with NetVault, and they scale, particularly on the VMware side, very well. So let me jump over more now to talk about the challenges around data growth. And I've kind of mentioned this a little bit already, so I'll be brief, but we provide excellent integration with our QoreStor solution as an added solution for dedupe and compression. It takes advantage of source-side deduplication versus some other technologies, which may be a post-process or after deduping after the data has been backed up. This is a much more efficient process. And this technology is built on appliance technology that we've had in the market for some time, and some excellent IP that we've had. So it's while this is a new solution, it's tried and true in the marketplace and deployed in many large customers. And as I mentioned, we also support EMC data domain in the DD Boost interface, as well as for smaller environments, NetVault Smart Disk. And one of the key things you can do, again, with QoreStor and NetVault is manage that directly from NetVault and not even have to go into the QoreStor management interface. I mentioned application aware snapshots. Again, this is new in version 12 as well. This offers much easier and faster backups than traditional backups, and get you recovery times, RTO and RPOs that really can't be achieved with a traditional backup, file-based backup. And what we mean by application aware is that the application snapshot backups are app consistent and provide a fully restartable copy of the application storage. So this is technology that has been in the industry, and we're now able to support that. We support compelling storage arrays today, but we'll be supporting a number of other vendors in the near future. And as you see on the slide there, our file system exchange and SQL applications support them today, but we'll be adding early next year support for VMware applications and some of our others. So this is an area that you can take advantage of now, and we'll be expanding this as we develop the version 12 platform further early next year. Okay, on security, this is a key area of focus. So we support all the key encryption algorithms, as you see there, and our data, you can rest assured, is encrypted at the client and backed up, remains encrypted until it's restored, if you so choose. But we've got flexible and customizable encryption, options to let you decide whether you need to or not, and do that very quickly. And last but not least, from a security perspective, we, as I mentioned, have single sign-on capability with our new support for Active Directory and LDAP. So Windows and Linux users can now take advantage of this to sign in using their AD credentials. And this allows you to, obviously regulate who can access what different aspects of NetVault and only get into what they're authorized to use. But one of the other key benefits of this capability, it has enabled our managed service provider support that I'll mention, talk about a little bit later as well. But it also has enabled us to now allow you to be more productive and push out new installs or upgrades out to your NetVault clients. This is particularly important as you have larger and larger installs, so you can do this automatically. So a couple of key benefits here, as you see there. Obviously, it's security and control, but faster time to value and improved productivity. Ability point of view, again, here's the capability around backup as a service. Very simply, what I just want to leave you with here is this is a new offering for us, and you can, if you're a managed service provider, take advantage of this in two ways. What I call a full turnkey service, where you can use NetVault and deploy a full backup as a service, and the customer never even knows they're running NetVault. We've got the capability to do that, and the product can be easily white gloved or OEM and re-logoed for you, and not even see any NetVault ID there. Or you can make it what I call end user managed and set up NetVault in your network infrastructure, in your network and data center, and allocate the resources out and let folks manage NetVault as their own NetVault admin. So again, this is a new offering and some very exciting new capability for us, and we've got some good pricing to go along with that on a one-year term basis. And briefly, just on pricing, I just want to touch on that. We offer two sort of flavors of pricing for NetVault. One is a capacity model based on front-end terabytes, more of, to use a food analogy, that the all-you-can-eat buffet, and you just order by the terabyte or weigh your food at the end, or the a la carte method, which is a component model. So we've got very flexible options that you can choose depending on your environment to license NetVault going forward. I mentioned Foglight. This is just a quick slide on the integration capability there. I mentioned that a couple of times, so I won't dwell on that too much. Again, this gives you some additional view of what's going on in your environment beyond the command and control of what NetVault can typically see, and we've got direct integrations to take advantage either from Foglight or NetVault to take proactive action. All right, so that was a very quick tour of the product. I'm going to leave the last category. I went through 4 out of 5. But I'm going to leave the ease of use, much of that to Roger, but I just want to cover one piece, as I mentioned, and that is our new Office 365 capability. So as you see there, Office 365 has been a great solution, and it's growing. I've got some statistics here. I think Microsoft reported they have 135 million active commercial users as of last quarter, and their revenue grew about 38% in the second quarter. So tremendous adoption of Office 365, but Microsoft does not guarantee, and they stated actually right up front on their website, that the data is yours and it's your responsibility to protect it. And so many folks are looking for assurance that they can, even though that data is up in the cloud, they want the ability to protect that data themselves and gain control over it. And so we've got a new offering. It's our Microsoft Office 365 plugin. Today it supports Exchange Online. And as you've heard with some of our other application protection, we focus on really optimizing the product for backup to minimize the amount of data you back up. You can exclude the things you see there, different mailboxes as well as attachments. And we've done some unique things. We've got actually 4 patent filings on this. Around the capability that we've introduced. It's built on the Microsoft Graph API as well, which I don't believe any of the other vendors are using, and that's going to allow us to do some other things and be more flexible, as well as it's very competitively priced, as you see there. So today we support Exchange Online. You may be asking, what about the other applications? Those are coming very soon. OneDrive, OneNote, SharePoint Online, we'll be adding those in the next couple of months. So you can adopt this today and get that as a free upgrade. So you've got built-in investment protection by taking advantage of our plugin as well. And so now I'll shut up and I'll turn it over to Roger and let him show you the product in action. So Roger, let you grab control, or David, I'm not sure how to do that.
Yeah, let me hand control over to Roger.
Sounds good, David. Thanks. All right. So, hi, everybody. Thanks, David. Thanks, John. I'm lucky to get a chance to kind of show you the product today. So, in a lot of ways, it's easier because I can kind of walk you through examples and everything. But what I'd like to do is show you some basics about the interface that we have, how it can be used to protect your data. And show a lot of the key concepts that David and John talked about, as far as just being future-proof, being easy to use, simple to configure, really trying to simplify a lot of the actions, automating your workload, giving you views into your data that allows you to provide data protection that gives you the peace of mind to do your job the way that you want to do it. So I figured the easiest way to do is kind of give you a general tour of our interface. So what this is our server monitor page. I'm going to show you a couple of different server machines that have a little bit different information to show you. Just as a general tour of our app, we have a left-hand navigation that slides out that gives you higher level categories as far as monitoring, looking at particular monitoring aspects of the application, setting up protection via jobs, looking at reporting, obviously, and then deeper configuration, and lastly, help. Along the top, we've got some video tutorials that are available for a lot of the different pages that show some insight and information into the individual pages. We support 6 different language locales. So here's where that can be just switched quite easily in the product. I'll show you the configuration menu in a little bit. Just a quick ability to show you what version you have installed, and then that's the obvious logout showing you who's logged in. I'm just logged in as a local admin user right now. So kind of the first obvious thing when we talk about data protection and using our NetVault product to protect data is starting with where we're going to store that data, what kind of information or what kind of target we're going to use. So I'm going to dive into how we manage devices and show you what that looks like, give you a little bit of info in that, and then we'll go back and take it back up a notch and set up some protection. So what I have that I'm going to show you right now I have a couple different devices. I have a simple VTL that's local on my server, as well as I have a QoreStor device, as John mentioned, our software-defined secondary storage target that we have. I've got installed on another machine here within my same environment. And I'm going to use that as a target for most of my backups. So I'll show you some details. I'll show you how that integration within the NetVault product, what it looks like. So we've got a very powerful, I've just got a single container. So you can have as many QoreStor containers defined as you'd like to really boost your performance of your data protection. Just for the sake of this demo and keeping things simple, I just have a single one that's attached to NetVault. I can look at some information about how much of that storage is utilized, some other meta information about the QoreStor instance. I also have the power to be able to manage the containers and storage groups on that QoreStor device as well. So I've got, I can manage users, I can create different containers, I can go ahead and start the cleaner. So it's a good, strong interface and integration that we have within the product to be able to utilize QoreStor. So when it comes to how we're going to set up a particular protection, we go to creating a backup job. And a job is going to be defined as what we want to back up, which you can view as this selection piece, and I'll show you that in just a moment. And then really this plugin options schedule. So this is kind of how you want it backed up, when you want it backed up, where you want it backed up to, and then advanced options like if you want secondary copies, if you want to have pre or postscript events happen, all those kind of things. So really view, you can give this job whatever name you want. You can browse for selections, and I'm going to do that just to show you what that looks like. So here's a case of I'm going to look at the clients that I have configured for this environment. And within a particular client, which is this server, I have many different plugins installed. And as John described earlier, with our plugin architecture, we have the ability to show these all at the same time. So we have, you can do file systems. This is the internal NetVault database you can back up. A couple of the most interesting ones that we have that obviously have the most interest from customers are the VMware plugin and is the plugin for Office 365. So I'll just browse the VMware plugin to kind of show you some of the capabilities there. I have an environment that I'm looking at, a particular vCenter within our own development environment. So I can browse down to that. I can look at down to the VM level. So if I just pop this open one more level, you'll see all these selections. I already have a pre-canned backup that I'll show you in just a moment, but I wanted to show you that's how we can get to these spots. The other thing that's interesting here too is that rather than go through and do individual selections of VMs, we've added inclusion and exclusion list patterns. So you can add an inclusion list pattern if you like, or you can also add a vSphere tag. So a couple different methods to be able to kind of give you a higher macro level way to define backups within your VMware environment. So those are both very powerful and coming in, and the patterns are there. The tags are coming in the 12.2 release. So it's going to be released yet this month. When it comes to, I'll also show you 365. So as John mentioned too, the first release of this is dealing with the mailboxes specifically, but what will happen here in the future is we'll add more and more pieces under this Office 365. This is a test instance we have in the case of the canned job I have that I'll show you in a moment. I just backed up an individual mailbox as well. But you would select a particular item, and then you can go ahead and save that that selection. And in NetVault language, we define these all as sets. So again, I'll go ahead and show you some jobs that I've created before and show you some details about that. So for instance, I'll look at the one that I protected, Steve's mailbox. So I'll go ahead and I'll view this job. I'll just show you some of the details and what that looks like, what kind of information is available to you in the user interface. So you can see the selections I made for Steve's here. I have previews that I look, so I don't have to go to the individual screens. I can see just what was selected. So I selected Steve's mailbox. I have some particular settings that I use. So this is a full backup. I said yes, use multi-streaming, but it's a very small job. When I want it done, I want it every weekday at 11:15 in the morning. I'm targeting it to the QoreStor device that I showed you earlier. And I'm using just the default options for the advanced options. If I want to go ahead and run a job, I can do it from here. I can do it from a few different places, but I'll do that and then I'll show you what the job status looks like. So there's a couple different ways to look at the status of jobs. There's a tabular or a grid-based view, which is what you're seeing right now. So you can see this top job is Steve's mailbox. It's writing to media. It's only 512K, so it's done very quickly. In addition to the tabular view of things, we also have a job calendar. So we can view several different ways to view this as well. So view the job status in a table version is one way. This is the time-based or the calendar view. So it's very similar to any calendars you work with Google or Outlook, where you have different views where you can look at things on a monthly basis, on a weekly basis, or even on an individual day basis. These jobs are quite small and quite short, they may not be really realistic to your environment. So we may see things that are a little bit bigger. So a month view kind of looks a little bit better in this case with these very short running jobs. But you can see that I've had several jobs run today, and I have some scheduled for tomorrow. So the green jobs are jobs that completed successfully, orange with warnings, and then the blues are the scheduled jobs. So these are going to happen tomorrow. With any of these, we can hover over, we can see some meta information about the job, and if we want to run actions, we can go ahead and run things, look at logs, look at the details of a job, or look at the history of a job. You can do all these actions from both the calendar and the job page, table page. But this can be a really interesting way to look at your data and definitely see some patterns that develop based on the time basis of your jobs. So I'll show you what that may look like at a different server here with a little bit more activity, just for interest's sake. So if you had jobs that were running that were a little bit longer, this is something that could look like a monthly view, could be a little bit obviously more complex with your environment. But we've got jobs that are successful. You can go ahead and hide scheduled jobs or hide jobs with success, and just show me jobs with errors and scheduled jobs, that kind of thing. We can do lots of different filtering. You can also search within, so you can look for just things that mention Oracle and really hone down what you're looking at if you'd like to really zoom in to look at those jobs. So there's a couple different ways to look at jobs and as they run and as they are scheduled to run in the future. Another thing that is a very powerful aspect of the product is policies. So with policies, we have the ability to define multiple jobs within a single entity. So in this particular instance, I'll go ahead and show you, but for this job is going to back up the C drives of 3 Windows machines, this individual server and 2 other clients, all within the same umbrella of a policy. And we can define, in addition to that, we can also define separate events that occur. If I look at the job status page here, just to show you, these 3 individual clients are backed up via 3 individual jobs. So this document job here with these 3 jobs, that's all kind of the same policy entity. So rather than have to define 3 individual jobs and manage that complexity, the policies piece gives you a way to be able to do that quite powerfully. So a very simple example of that, but again, very powerful. So as long as those things share the selection aspect, we can go ahead and do many things within a single NetVault policy. So that's kind of the protection side. So I'll move on to what we do when we want to restore. So I also have some jobs that I've run recently here today, and I can kind of show you what that looks like within the interface here. So this is a page that's going to show you save sets, and what, from a NetVault perspective, a save set is one of those jobs, the data that's been saved for that completed job. So we can choose from all these different save sets to restore information. Here's Steve's protected mailbox. Here's the documents on each of those 3 servers. I also have just the C drive completely on another machine. You can go ahead and select a particular save set, go to the next page, and in this kind of mode of operation or workflow, you can browse the tree of what was backed up and select and restore directly from here. In this case, if you know exactly what was backed up, this might be the best way to go. Simple. I'll show you another way to do this too, is that we have a powerful new catalog search feature that John mentioned that allows a lot more, kind of answering the question of like, how do you deal with data growth? What's the best way to manage that? From a restore perspective, imagine that a user needs to find a particular file. They know some meta information about it. but they can't remember exactly which date it was. I don't know exactly which save set it was a part of. I can use the search functionality, and these have all been indexed. So if I say I want to find a file that has the word important in it, in the title. So through all those backups I've done today, I think I'm going to find one instance of that file that's been backed up a couple different times. So here is that file. It was part of the backup for this particular client. It was the file system plugin, and there's 2 different copies, so it was backed up at 2 different times. So it's backed up just at the top of the hour when we started, and earlier this morning. By default, we're going to show you the most recent one, but you get the idea when it was backed up, when it was last modified. If I want to restore this, I simply click the checkbox, and then I can go ahead and restore it. I'll drop back into that same workflow, and off I go. So again, if you want to do tree browse and very powerful look through things and do individual selections, or if you want to do more of a meta search related restore of your data to recover that, we've got both of those covered. So I'll move on more to kind of how you monitor the system. I showed you initially the server monitor page. Here's what we first had up. You can look at events over different time periods. So I can look in just the last 10 minutes. It's been nothing's happened, but in the last 8 hours, you see that more has happened. We've had a couple different cycles of backups. You have some filtering, so you can dive into particular jobs with different warning or scheduled jobs. We also, in the last couple of releases, have added a dashboard functionality. So you can look at some widgets related to performance of the system. So I can look at quickly eyeball client status. I've got 4 clients that are all good right now. I have 4 different devices. That's including my tapes that are defined on that VTL. And then I see I've got 4 successful jobs and 2 jobs with warnings. So just a quick way to visually look and see, is my system working? Do I have anything I need to attend to? We also have the ability to configure the dashboard, clone dashboards, create your own individual dashboards. So it's a very, very powerful functionality. A couple other things I wanted to just hit on as far as managing larger environments. We do have a push install functionality now that's very robust in the coming release, where we can push software from a machine to another machine in your environment, and that could be one that may not have NetVault on it at all. It might have NetVault on it. You want to push updates of a client software or plugin software. I just kind of wanted to show you how that looked like. I've defined a package store on my machine that has it's a share that essentially contains the packages for a client software and a plugin. So I can choose to select a particular plugin client package, or I can select a particular plugin. This is the VMware plugin. Say, okay, if I was to go next, I could then define a list of servers to push that to. So rather than have to go and visit each machine, we've got the capability now to be able to, in a really hybrid environment, push software out automatically. And with similar to a lot of different aspects we have in the interface here, we continue to evolve this. So as we go forward, we continue to evolve and simplify and handle all the cases. So this is a very powerful functionality to really simplify people's lives and management of their environments. One other thing I wanted to touch on too was users and groups. Sometimes that can be one of the more challenging aspects of it. With the latest version of NetVault, we now support integration with Active Directory and LDAP. So view that as saying we can use your existing Active Directory and LDAP mechanisms for authentication, whereas the authorization can be configured within the application of NetVault itself. So here what you're seeing is you've got a couple of NetVault default users that are internal to NetVault with admin and default. Here we've got a couple of domain-based or Active Directory-based users. So I've got an admin user and just a regular user. Quickly here and simply from the same page, I can go ahead and change the privileges for a particular user. This is my admin. I can use a privilege preset. Select and say admin. I want to load all the admin privileges. I can say apply, and that's in place. If I had this test user that's more of an operator, I could go ahead and load a different preset here. So I can say this is a backup operator. I'll load those presets and save that. I can also set particular media quotas and job quotas. So very powerful, very simple to use, all within the same page, very quick. It's easy to add users, easy to manage groups. If you want to add within the Active Directory, we can actually add groups so that the whole group has a particular authorization. So as long as that authentication works with Active Directory, they'll have the appropriate authorization within the NetVault product. And then I'm going to finish out with just some quick UI-specific functionality that we have. So we've got some application settings that can be set both at a server level, so you have server level defaults determined by an admin, as well as user-specific preferences. So if you don't like the fact that the navigation drawer auto-hides and you want it to be persistent, you can turn off the auto-hide. We do have a dark theme that goes along with this light theme. We also have, you can show actions as those context menus up by the title of the page, or you can actually show buttons on the bottom of the page. You change the time format. We also can change how many rows in a table we show before we actually page it. So just for example, I changed the theme to dark, and now you can see just a different look and feel. It's a personal preference, so if somebody likes this look better, we can certainly use it. When it comes to I'll show you how we'll look at a page with a little bit more data on it, and we can talk a bit about the functions related to the table and the table size. You can see that I made that selection earlier to say show me 1,000 things at a time. By default, it's going to show you what fits, and it'll page the rest, so you'll have to go through. You can, right now I've got a lot of things that are scrollable, and I can override that within a particular table as well. So lots of power involved with that. Any table that, any grid of data within the product has filtering. You'll see this where you can actually click, we slide in a details drawer from the right-hand side, keeping you on the page, but allows you to set particular filters for the data that's described in the table. So we've got, if we want to turn on and off different classes, particular string searches, dates, some are more complex like job status. It has many different knobs and levers to be able to really filter and hone in on exactly what you want to see. If a filter is applied, you can see that there's that teal border on the outside of it, but this is a very involved filter. Let's say I want to show everything. I can apply my filter, and my filtering will change. So within a table as well, you can see there's different pages have throughout the user interface have a lot of tables. Here's a case where, so I showed you the filtering, but we talked about page size. The other thing that's very interesting is that, and powerful, is you can define what columns you see. Actually, job status might be the best one to show you just because it has the most power, and it is kind of a page that's used the most to manage an environment. You can reorder columns if you'd like. That is persisted from different session to session. You can also choose the visibility of columns. So you can say, I don't want to see that column. I just want to see ID and instance. If you want to see additional columns, like which selection set is that job using, I might want to move it over here to a different spot. You can change the width, visibility, and order of all the columns. You can also change the sorting. So you can have a multiple column sort. So you can sort by, let's say, selection set, or if you have a lot of different things, easy sort by ID. Many different ways to do that. And if you have really complex data, you can sort by multiple columns at the same time. All the while we have, you can actually visualize that by clicking on the icon down here in the lower right of the table. And then the last thing I'll mention is that any of the data that is in these tables, you can go ahead and export it to CSV format simply by clicking on that button. So if you want to work with some data that's in that table, you can go ahead and do that as a convenience. So again, really quick tour of the user interface, but it is important that we really wanted to focus on being able to create simple data protection workflows to allow you to really get your job done, and then be able to provide the visibility of your systems to be able to manage it appropriately, do what you need to do to make sure that things are successful, and that you really do have that peace of mind that things are working as they should be. So I guess, David, I think if people have questions, this would be a good time we could talk about those questions.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we do have some good questions coming in from the audience. So let me go ahead and just quickly announce our prize winner before we take those questions. I'm going to share my screen now. All right, the prize winner for today is Ed Carrasquillo from Washington. Congratulations, Ed from Washington. And with that, I'll just leave this call to action up on the screen here to encourage everyone to give NetVault a try. There's a free 30-day trial. I'll just leave that up while we chat about the questions that came in. So let's see. First question I see here, they're asking, can you back up EMC Isilon with NetVault?
Yeah, that's correct. I tried to answer it in the chat, didn't know if it worked, but yeah, we support Isilon 1FS.
Okay, nice. Another question here, they're asking, is there a way to test the backup process and quality and validity to ensure that when you do a restore that the restore is going to work? What do you recommend for that?
Well, you have the ability to back up and restore as much as you like in your test environment, and then compare the data, and ensure you get 100% data recovery. So, but Prasad, if you want to answer that as well, feel free. One of my colleagues is on, if he can speak.
Sure, I can do that. I mean, the whole premise of the backup and recovery software is an ability to be able to back up and being able to recover reliably, and that's the basis or the foundation of it. So internally, every backup software in the world has a process to be able to make sure that whatever they're backing up, they're again streamed into a data format, the blocks are created, and a proprietary backup format is stored on the targets. So we do all sorts of checks and balances and to be able to make sure that whatever you're trying to back up, all those streams are captured, managed, relevant information is stored in a metadata format in form of, let's say, if you want to call it a metadata that is attached to your backups. So that tells you whether the backups were successful or not. And even when, let's say, backup is trying to write to its target and something happens to that target, and if it fails, then we track it at what point in time that particular stream failed. All the IOs are tracked. So there are various mechanisms that are transparent to the users, making sure that all the backups are reliable, and down to a level where we allow the granular recoveries as well. So you can tell the backup software, like, I want that version of that file from so-and-so location and things like that. So yes, backup and recovery are 100% guaranteed at all times. There is no way in the world if that backup will fail. We'll be facing a lot of lawsuits if we are not able to do something basic like that. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, great answer. Thank you, Prasad. Another question here, they're asking about, essentially, I think it boils down to backup notification options when a backup completes. Kind of what are the options around emailing a user or an admin?
Sure. So I'll take that one. So sorry, I didn't, with not enough time to really show you all the nitty gritty, but within a particular job, you can define on those advanced options events to occur based on completion of jobs or different status, and you can configure notifications. So there's a lot of robust ability to do that within the product. So you definitely can do that, and that can be associated with a particular job.
Okay, very nice. And then what about, do you have plans to support other Office 365 apps like OneDrive, OneNote, and SharePoint in the future?
Yep. Yeah, as I mentioned, so I've got this. So we support Exchange Online today, but the architecture we've built is built on the Graph API, and that'll allow us to implement the other apps very quickly. So you'll see that from us very soon in the next year. And if you buy the capability today, you'll get that as a free upgrade.
Okay. And then one feature here that they're asking about is the Aware snapshot support. What storage arrays and applications are supported with that?
So today we support Dell EMC Compellent, but we'll be adding other arrays. One that has been in the news today, lately, but not for their storage, is Huawei. And that'll be coming out in January. And then shortly after, we'll be adding support for NetApp. And from an application perspective, we have our base file system support, Exchange, and SQL Server. But soon in the next year as well, we'll be adding application aware support for our VMware capabilities as well.
Very nice. And then what about like additions and licensing, packaging? How does that work?
Yeah, so very quickly, as I touched on, we have sort of two flavors. You can buy the all-you-can-eat model, which is based on capacity. You pay by the amount of front-end data you're protecting, and you get entitled to all the components of NetVault to deploy as you wish. That's a very easy and attractive model, and it's aligned to the value you're getting and the data you're protecting. However, if you want to buy it more on an a la carte perspective, you can pick and choose the components, servers, and plugins, and build a configuration that you like and just pay it that way. So kind of two different flavors, but that should fit whatever you need.
Excellent, excellent. Well, I think we've reached the top of the hour, and that's all the questions we have for now. But John and Roger, really great presentation, great demo. Thank you so much for being on the event today.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, thank you, David. Appreciate it.
I'm really impressed with the new NetVault, especially the user interface, the usability, the scalability, just really great features in the new product release. So thank you so much for sponsoring this event today, Quest Software, and thank you everyone out there in the audience for joining us on today's webinar on future-proofing your data protection solution. Oh, and for more information on NetVault, of course, visit quest.com and download the free trial. Have a great day. Bye-bye.